In the first video in this section on the Constitution, I talked about the unitary system, I explained what a unitary system is, what a federalist system is, and what a confederation is. And I also explained why the colonies eventually, when they broke away, originally started with a confederation, and then ultimately we wound up with the federalist system that we have now. In the section coming up, what I'm going to talk about are the three branches of government and at who and which office it is at the national and the state and the local level. And that'll make more sense in a moment. I apologize for the lack of clarity there, but it will make more sense. One thing I wanted to point out, though, is that do you see at where it says instituting a new national government and it says Constitution_1? What that is intended to denote is that everything from that point down to before it says Constitution 2, all of that is the information in video 1. So if you're looking through your notes and you realize, oh man, I don't remember what a confederation is. You look on the lecture notes, you see, oh, there's confederation. Oh, that's in Constitution_1, video 1. Then you can just go into the Canvas page where it has all the videos and you can look up video 1, fast forward to the section where I talk about the Confederation, and then you can listen to that part of the lecture one more time. This lecture that we're starting on is the second video in the series of videos on the Constitution. And so that's what you'll see that all the way through this document, Constitution_1, 2, 3, and so on until we get to the end. Now, as I said in the last video, the information that I'm going to discuss in this particular video is going to be some very basic information. And for some students, you may already know this. It may be something that you learned in high school, and it may be something, maybe you're really into politics, so you already knew this, and so this is standard information for you. If that's the case, you can either just skip through this, or if you want, you can, speed up the video, and that way you can watch it more quickly. And so you can just verify, at a faster speed that you have that information correct. But one of the things I want everybody to remember is that my goal is to try and get everybody else up to a certain level of understanding. And so there are some students who didn't learn this in high school. Some students who just hate political science and they've been putting off this class for as long as they possibly can. They didn't like it in high school, they don't like it in college, and so this isn't stuff they ever learned, and now they have to learn it. And so I want to make sure that they're up at the same level as those of you who already understand this information really well. So keep that in mind as we go through these videos. And if you get to a point where you think like, oh, I know this stuff, just speed up. That's cool. So we have three branches of government. I've always wondered why they call them branches, but I don't know. But we're going to stick with that terminology. We have three branches of government. We have the executive branch, we have the legislative branch, and we have the judicial branch. And they each have a different function. And so what I want to talk about are the different functions. Now, they all have multiple functions. They do multiple things, but I'm going to focus on the primary function. And I'm actually going to start with the legislative branch. The primary function of the legislative branch is to write the laws. They're the ones responsible for negotiating, discussing, and then writing laws, whether it's for at the national level, the federal level, the state level, or the local level. The job of the executive is to enforce the laws. So the legislative branch writes them. The executive branch that plays a role in the laws becoming enforced, they enforce the laws. And then finally, the judicial branch, what they do is they interpret the laws. Okay? So those are the primary functions. Now again, the executive branch has, depending on whether we're talking about the national level, the state level, or the local level, has multiple functions as well. But these are the primary ones and where we're going to focus a lot of our energy and attention on. So let's go through each one. Who is the executive at the national level? You can say it out loud if you know the answer, unless you're like sitting in a public place and it's weird for you to just be talking out loud. Well, hopefully some of you guessed that the chief executive at the national level is the president. Now, as you'll find out, there is an entire executive branch, all kinds of people who help the president enforce the laws. So it's not just the president doing it alone. But the president is the executive, the chief executive at the national level. What about the legislative branch? Who's the legislative branch at the national level? Hopefully some of you said Congress. But Congress is actually comprised of two different chambers, two different bodies. Do you know who they are? There's the House of Representatives and the Senate. Together, when we talk about the House of Representatives and the Senate, that's what we mean by Congress, right? Okay. Then finally, what about the judicial branch? The head of the judicial branch at the national level is the Supreme Court, sorry for my typing, of the United States. But to make it easier to type that out, you're going to frequently see me just write SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States. So at the national level, the executive is the president, the legislative branch is Congress, but that equals the House of Representatives and the Senate. And then in the judicial branch, the Supreme Court is the head of the judicial branch at the national level. And there are a bunch of other courts below the Supreme Court at the federal level, but those are all created by Congress themselves. And we'll talk about that more later in the semester. At the state level, who's the executive? Hopefully some of you knew, but if not, you know now, it's the governor. The governor is the head, the executive at the state level. Here's a more complicated one. Who's the legislative branch at the state level? Well, if some of you got it, this is why it's fun to be in in-person classes, because every once in a while somebody gets answers to these questions, and I'm always like totally impressed, like, how do you know that? But at the state level, we have the California Assembly, and we also have the Senate. So those two bodies together are the legislative branch at the state level. And then finally, the judicial level, we have at the very top, and maybe some of you knew this, the California State Supreme Court. And I don't have a cool acronym for the California State Supreme Court, but each state actually has its own Supreme Court. And so at the judicial branch, that's the head of the Supreme Court in the state of California. Now this gets a little bit more complicated. So if you know the answer to this, I'm impressed. Maybe in your discussion board post, you can let me know if you knew this or didn't know this. It's okay. Again, if you didn't know, that's what you're here for, right? Is to learn this. So at the local level, the chief executive is who? The mayor, right? The mayor is the chief executive. And at the legislative level, local government, is usually the city council. Now, when it comes to the judicial branch, at the local level, they're referred to as the municipal courts, right? These are courts that enforce laws that are passed just at the local level. Now, once again, this is just background information that I think it's really important for everybody to have to get us all up to speed. If you already knew this, fantastic. If you just learned this, and this is the first time you've heard these distinctions, that's even better, man, because now you're learning about American government, and that's what you're here for, whether you are happy about that or not. Now, in the next lecture, we're going to start talking about the Declaration of Independence and start talking about national government one more time.